Hey everyone, welcome to week 3. Before we get started, I would just like to remind y'all about active listening. So as you're watching these lessons, make sure that you're actively listening. How can we show that we're actively listening? What do we use? Of course, we use our ears so that we can listen, but what else? We use our eyes to focus on the speaker, even though we're on a computer screen. Use our eyes to focus on the speaker, right? What else do we use? Our mouth. Stay very quiet. And then what about our hands? We keep our hands and feet to ourselves, and we lay down and take a nap while Miss Doobie's giving her lesson. No, we sit up straight and tall. We use our whole body to sit up straight and tall. And then what else do we use? We got to use our brain. We have to think. So while we're listening and focusing on the speaker, we use our brain to show that we're actively listening and thinking. And then what else? Our heart. Because remember, we've already talked about being kind to all neighbors, and that includes yourself. We're being kind to ourselves during this time and learning as much as we can. So make sure that you're actively listening, okay? I'm going to share my screen with y'all and we're going to go through the playlist, okay? I know that y'all have been going through Miss Doobie's playlist and my playlist and all of your other teachers' playlists throughout the week. And it just helps you know what you're supposed to be doing. So we have a must do. Every day, I want you to complete a zones of regulation check-in. Remember, if you're feeling like you're in the green zone, you're happy, you're ready to learn. If you're feeling in the blue zone, you might be sad or tired. If you're feeling in the yellow zone, you might be nervous or feeling silly. And if you're feeling in the red zone, you might be angry or frustrated. And then I want to know what tools you're using. We've went over some mindfulness activities. We went over breathing exercises. I think you did a snake breath with Miss Doobie earlier this week. What are some other ways? We sniff our flower and blow out the candle. What about a bee breath? What sound does a bee make? Bzzz, right? So we breathe in, take a big deep breath, and then we make a noise like a bee. Until we can get all that air out, right? And I just want to know if you're painting, if you're taking a walk, if you're spending time with family or friends, what you're doing, what tools you're using to help. Then you're going to complete a Newsela assignment or a Visual assignment. Make sure you're completing one bingo activity each week, watching the YouTube video, learning from Miss Chandler, Mr. Walton, Miss Walls, any of our other teachers, like how to make your bed, how to make a snack, how to give your dog a bath, how to water the plants, how to take out the trash, because you need to be helping out around the house right now, okay? And then you can write an email to your teacher, listen to the song of the day, and complete the activity. There's so many things that you can do. I have links to where you can complete a puzzle. You can do stuff from your folder activity in your Google Drive, all kinds of things. So make sure you're doing your playlist and checking all the things off your playlist throughout the week, okay? For today, English, we're going to be reading a story. We're going to read a story from Newsela. Okay. So, the story that we're reading today, Eyes of the Dragon, an Imaginary Tale by Camille S. Phillips. That's the author. And illustrated by Laura Bryant. Remember, the author, Camille S. Phillips, is the person who wrote this story, whereas Laura Bryant, the illustrator, is the person who drew this lovely picture we're looking at. Let's get started. Long ago in China, a girl named Chang lived in a village near the emperor's palace. Her father, Lin, was a glass blower, and Chang helped him even though her sight was poor. She brought water from the stream, cared for her father's tools, and reminded him to eat and sleep. Chang thought all of her father's glass sculptures were beautiful, but her favorites were the tiny dragons, the emblem of the emperor. Unfortunately, she could see them only by holding them close to her face. Every month, a servant of the emperor bought new treasures from Lin, and it was in this way that Shang and Lin made their living. But one day the servant said, "The emperor desires larger sculptures." Lin and Shang bowed, but they knew that the fragile glass structures often collapsed when made larger. Until this point, the emperor had always prized the smallest sculptures above all others, and Lin's creations had satisfied his ruler's wishes. The next month, the servant rejected several pieces, saying, "These are too small." Shang shivered in fear. Her father was a wonderful artist, but an impractical man. How would they earn a living if the emperor ceased to buy her father's crystal sculptures? Shang fretted as she went to fetch water from the stream outside the village. There, the cheerful singing of birds lightened her heart. She was so comforted by their music that she followed them farther and farther into the forest. Suddenly, they fell silent. Shang peered around, frowning. She didn't know where she was. She began to walk slowly, trying to find her way back to the village. The forest was very still. At the edge of a clearing, Chang stumbled and fell. As she rose to her feet, she heard bushes rustling, and something large came toward her. It moved closer and closer, then it stopped. She squinted and saw the enormous head of a green dragon. Shang felt faint, but since she loved her father's glass dragons, she gathered her courage. Look how enormous that dragon is compared to Chang. What do you think will happen? Do you think the dragon's going to hurt her? Do you think they'll become friends? Let's read and see. "Oh, mighty dragon," she said in a small voice, "I am sorry to have disturbed you. Please permit me to leave so that you can rest." "Perhaps, little one," rumbled the dragon. "Why are you here?" "I'm lost," she said. "I followed the birds and didn't notice that I'd strayed far from my village." "You didn't notice my tail either? You tripped over it," he snapped. "I'm sorry, great one," said Shang. "I hope I did not bruise your tail." "You are too small to hurt me, but I thank you for your apology," the dragon said. He smiled, revealing large teeth. "Then may I go?" "Perhaps, if you help me with a small problem." "How may I serve you?" she asked, feeling encouraged. "Part of a sharp branch is embedded in my leg. I cannot remove it." "I see poorly," said Shang, "but I will do what I can for you." "I can help you with your sight. Take this scale of mine and hold it in front of your eye," the dragon instructed. She did so. The green scale was translucent. Peering through it, she was able to see clearly. How splendid the world was! The trees, the clouds, and most glorious of all, the dragon. "You are magnificent! You are even more beautiful than my father's sculptures," Shang exclaimed, forgetting her fear. The dragon arched his neck and preened. "Thank you. Now help me." He showed her his leg. After Shang removed the branch and cleaned the wound, the dragon bowed his head to her in thanks. "As a gift, I present you with another scale, so that you may see the beauty of the world with both eyes." Then he rose into the sky. Shang ran home and told her father what had happened. Lin was terrified for her and then relieved. As he examined the dragon's scales, he said, "These remind me of my glass, yet they enable you to see." The next day, the emperor's servant arrived. Again, he bought fewer of the sculptures. After he left, Shang said, "Father, what if the emperor wants larger sculptures because his sight is failing? Could we make him pieces of glass like my dragon scales?" "An interesting thought," her father said. "Let us try." They worked for several weeks to create glass like the dragon's scales. Shang held up each type of glass in front of her eyes. When she could see clearly through it, they knew they had succeeded. Lin used silver to create a handle for 2 pieces of the glass. When the emperor's servant came again, Lin gave the silver-mounted glass pieces to him. "My daughter presents this gift to the emperor. They are called eyes of the dragon." "Ask the emperor to hold the glass pieces in front of his eyes," Lin said. 2 days later, the servant returned. "The emperor is most pleased," he said. "He desires more of his favorite sculptures, the small ones." From that day forward, Shang and Lin lived in great prosperity. The emperor gave them many honors, including an estate, and he commanded them to teach their craft to others so that everyone in the kingdom could receive the gift of sight, called Eyes of the Dragon. Thank y'all for following along and reading the story with me. As you do the assignments on your own through Newsela, I would like for y'all to take notice of all the words that are underlined in green. Some of the words in the story were tools, enormous, exclaimed, examine. And these are your vocabulary words, or as Newsela likes to call them, power words. For enormous, remember when we looked at the dragon and I said, "Wow, look how enormous the dragon is compared to Shang." What do you think enormous means? Well, if something's enormous, it means it's really big. So as you're doing the activities, click on the activities tab to the right of your screen. You'll see power words. You can go through and learn the definition of all of the power words included in today's story. And then there's also a writing activity where I would like to hear or read what one detail is from the story. So the question is, what is one interesting detail from the story? Or what is one fun detail from the story? And as you're completing the writing activity, I want you to remember our writing checklist. So I can use a capital letter, like this sentence, "I love my students." You begin each sentence with a capital letter. I can use finger spaces. So if you're writing before you type it out, make sure you're using appropriate spacing, and you can use your finger. Sometimes I like to use my pinky when I'm writing on actual paper. No, you use your pinky to make sure you're spacing appropriately. And last but not least, I can use punctuation. So just like this sentence, how we start the sentence with a capital letter. "I love my students." We end it with appropriate punctuation, period. So as you're answering the question, what is one interesting detail from the story? Make sure you're following the checklist, okay? I hope you have a great day. I look forward to reading all of your responses, and have a good rest of your week.